Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Metal video. In this video, I'm going to take a look at what makes a unit a very good slot 1 unit, or a tank, so to speak. Now, someone asked this recently on a video, so I thought I would address kind of the three main positions. Slot 1 / tank, slot 2 / damage dealer, kind of, and slot 3 support. But essentially, these are interchangeable. Nowadays, with bosses doing so much damage and doing so much damage with supers and things like that, traditionally speaking, it's not so straightforward as to just align units to slots. But a lot of people like to ask these questions, and so I like to provide the answers. But you should always be willing to change your rotations based on what the boss is doing, and not just having a set rotation for the sake of having a set rotation. Now, in terms of a position 1 unit, two crucial elements I think are very important when talking about a position 1 or a tank unit, and that is guard. So guard isn't the most important, but it is a very important factor, especially nowadays with just how strong bosses hit. Guard dramatically reduces the amount of damage that your units will take. It essentially treats it that they have type and class advantage, which if you need any more help on how either of these things work, I'll leave a link in the top right hand corner. But essentially, guard is a super crucial component to mitigating the amount of damage units face, and when you want units that you can just kind of leave in the first slot, it's going to be very crucial. Now, if a unit relies solely on defense, sometimes they age out. So even though they have guard, like the Super Saiyan Goku, if you don't have a couple dupes in him, you might find he still takes a fair chunk of damage, and that's okay. Raw defense units do tend to phase out, which is why the next factor is actually the most important, and that is damage reduction. You'll find a lot of the time the best first slot tanks in the game are units that have damage reduction, because damage reduction stands the test of time. A great example of this is Tech God Goku, Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, AGL Golden Frieza. Damage reduction, and we're talking high levels, we're not talking 20%, 10%, we're talking higher levels of damage reduction. I would say 50% and higher are probably where you are starting to look at units being potential first slot tank units. Now, of course, defense does come into play and type advantage comes into play. Having a unit with 50% damage reduction but 30k defense and type disadvantage isn't going to help you out. But generally speaking, units tend to be pretty good. Some damage reduction is conditional, and so you traditionally want your first slot tank to have damage reduction that's non-conditional. So take, for example, Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. He just has 90% damage reduction. Frieza's is a bit conditional with the health requirement, but traditionally speaking, it's kind of hard to start a turn below 40%, so Frieza's generally quite good in that regard. So obviously, now talking about the best first slot tanks, you kind of want a bit of both. So obviously units like Strength Movie Piccolo come to mind, being an exceptional first slot tank, being a unit that has 30% damage reduction but also guard as a capability, which is very strong. It's something that makes Tech Power Awakening Piccolo so good. He has guard for the first 3 turns and 20% damage reduction. These two factors together, coupled with the fact that he gains defense upon hit, are very crucial to determining how good he is as a first slot tank. And again, it's not to say that this is the only way units can be first slot tanks. Some are great first slot tanks that develop into better secondary units like AGL Golden Frieza. Sometimes units will gain enough defense that they'll be exceptional first slot tanks past the first turn. A great example is Super Saiyan Trunks and Super Saiyan God Vegeta. But these are the things you want to look for. Does a unit have guard? Do they have decent levels of damage reduction? Do they have a combination of both? Can they stack defense? That's not also getting into things like nullification, which are also crucial nowadays. A lot of good units will have the ability to nullify some kind of super attack. A great example of this is Physical Janemba, who is a second slot unit for the first couple turns, and then a fantastic first slot unit beyond turn 3, because he has his full defense, he has nullification, he's got guard. A great example of a unit I love is Super Strike 16, who I've used in tons of content, just due to the fact that when his guard is active, he has 60% damage reduction, which means when his guard activates, he's basically one of the best tanks in the game, and he's really, really solid. As I mentioned before, Janemba is really good. So he also kind of fits that mold, but maybe not straight away. So don't limit yourselves to what I've said in the sense that, these units have to be that way, but just keep an eye out for it. And can a unit be a tank with evasion? Well, yes, there's evasion-based tanking. I think Chila is a great example of this, whereby she has 70% evasion. A lot of people build her full evasion due to the fact that she doesn't have anything else really going for her. And yes, technically through evasion, she can be a great tank. Another great example of this is Tech Khalifla, who essentially does that against Pure Saiyans, so it is a possibility. So this should hopefully give you some kind of idea of what to look for, and yeah, should give you some help for team building. But let me know if you need any more help, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!